Hey everyone, welcome to this video where I talk about dietary fats and oils. For definition purposes, it's the most concentrated source of food energy, having way more calories in every gram than carbohydrates. Fats surprisingly have uses in the body. When you talk about fat in the lexicon of weight loss and cardiovascular health, it's like the worst, to the point that people refer to someone who is obese as being fat. And some of the uses, that it supplies some of the highest amounts of energy, carries the fat-soluble vitamins, and provides reserve stores of energy, then promotes good skin health. Brain and nerve function are well maintained by partly by the fat, and we know that it's widely believed that obese people tend to be more calm and generally less stressed. Cushions the internal organs, then helps someone feel full for a longer period of time, and that's because of the hormones that are stimulated by fat. And these hormones or leptins help the brain to keep feeling full for a longer period of time. It makes food more palatable, and that's the reason why we all crave for fat and eat large amounts of it, probably more than necessary. So then, why is fat such a bad thing? Really, we know that it's not that bad. Usually, it's rather the amount and the type of fat that is eaten. One of the types of fat, as I say here, is saturated fat, and we know that saturated fat is usually solid at room temperature. It's usually found in meats and other animal sources. For plant sources, would be found in palm oil and coconut oil, basically plant oils which also turn solid. And we know that saturated fat is always implicated in increasing the bad body fat and decreasing the good body fat. Mono-saturated fat usually have one double bond at least, and there are two types of mono-unsaturated fat. One is cis fat. Cis fat, we know that it's the natural version of it. It's usually liquid at room temperature. And examples are fat from fish and fat from vegetable oils. On the other hand, trans fat usually happens in hydrogenated oils. We know that this hydrogenation of oils is usually an intentional thing done in food industries, and that's done to increase the shelf life of the oil and to prevent the breakdown or the hydrolysis or the oxidation of these oils, or the rancidification of the oils. And this usually also turns solid at room temperature. And examples of where this is found is packaged foods, margarine, in butter, in biscuits, in frozen packed foods. And you can always read on the nutritional contents of packed food to see whether they say it has hydrogenated oils. Of course, because this is widely known to be as bad as saturated fat, some manufacturers may fraudulently refuse to disclose that this is contained in their food. So for structure and purposes of people who are interested in this saturated fat will look like this. Basically, single bonds everywhere. This is cis fat, which is hydrogen on the same side of the double bond. Trans fat, which is the bad fat, hydrogen bonds on opposing sides of the double bond. And we know that this is a very bad fat together with saturated fat, and saturated fat is considered to be a good fat. So polyunsaturated fat is generally, for it has many more double bonds than one. and it's generally good fat, increases the good body fat. Can be found in sea fish, for example, salmon, and in some vegetable oils like nuts, and also like sunflower oils. So this is good fat. We cannot end this talk without talking about cholesterol, and those cholesterol are talked about as it is widely known to be bad for cardiovascular health, and we know it's a fat-like substance produced in the liver of many animals. And one of the use of cholesterol is for optimal functioning of cells, as well as the brain and nerve cells. So it's present in most animal fat. And if you're looking at the dichotomy of bad and good fat, then always classify this as bad fat, because it's well established that large amounts of cholesterol in diet are linked to increased risk of cardiovascular disease. As a rule of thumb, fats that are solid at room temperature are made up mainly of saturated fat and are generally considered bad fat, and whereas fats that are liquid at room temperature are usually made of unsaturated fatty acids and are generally known to be good. The problem is we usually eat too much fat, and quite often the wrong kinds of fat. For some reason, the bad fat tends to taste sweeter than the good fat. I don't know why. And all the same, this increases the risk of serious health concerns and illnesses. So to lower bad fat and cholesterol in the diet, one, we could do more exercise, and we are to do 30 minutes of aerobic exercise at least 3 times every week. Consistency being more rewarded than effort. We need to replace saturated fats with unsaturated fats in the diet as much as we can. So maybe fish and vegetable oil for the saturated fats, the solid fats. Then we need to get into the habit of choosing lean cuts of meat whenever we are to purchase meat, versus what we do all the time, trying to look for the nyama nsava, the one which is more fatty. Then we need to steam, boil, bake foods instead of cooking them in oil and fat. Then we need to avoid overheating and reusing oil, because we know that this breaks down the oil into and takes away the protective functions of the oil against oxidation, and this worsens health generally. And even good fat, good oil, if overheated or reused many times, turns into bad fat. And generally, we need to eat less food, because ultimately we know that most food, if we eat it in excess, then it's be stored in the body as fat. So one may ask, then how are we supposed to enjoy the money we sweat for?